You know, of all the possible Berserk characters that we could see again in this manga, I've always wondered, where is Jill? Where is my boy Jerome, the pseudo-apostle man Slayer? Yeah, that guy's a badass. But of all the characters that exist within Berserk, the one I never thought we would ever see on screen again, well, here's the rape horse. Okay, so Berserk Chapter 371. I think just overall, I want to say that I thought the artwork in this chapter was very, very, very well done. I feel like every single chapter that Studio Gaga makes, they get better and better with the art. As far as the context of this chapter, I assumed that Berserk was going to go in either one of two directions, and this chapter actually kind of does both. The first direction I thought was that the next chapter was going to take place fully within Guts' mind, within his subconscious, similarly to the chapter we had where he was in Goto's cave and recounting on all of his past memories. I assumed that we would be inside of Guts' head for the majority of this chapter, and that he would be having a conversation with his Beast of Darkness, which doesn't exactly happen. That is sort of the first half of the portion of this chapter, which just leads us into absolute despair. And the second half of this chapter is the other direction that I thought Berserk might go in, and that is shifting focus over to Falconia, seeing Griffith arrive with Casca, and then seeing Casca being able to roam Falconia and seeing what she thinks of what is happening here and how the world has moved on, how the world has been reestablished in Griffith's name, and that this sanctuary now exists. We don't get to see that happen, but we do get to see Casca arrive in Falconia. So the building blocks of the two directions that I thought the story might go in are here, though this chapter didn't really go all the way with either of them. And I kind of would have preferred if it stayed focused on just one story method, or one story idea, rather, at the time, than kind of doing both. Because by doing both, I feel like it kind of sets us up for something, but it's something that we've already kind of been set up for. However, the execution of what they did, I did think was very well done, and I want to go into a few thoughts about it overall. My first thing that I want to tackle, of course, is everything happening within Guts' psyche right now, which, if anybody doesn't quite understand, what you're dealing with here is true and honest despair. Now, Guts has been through more trauma than almost anybody in fiction that I can possibly think of, and he's handled it in a multitude of different ways. And I think one of the greatest things about Guts' character is that it does showcase that human side of him at all times, and the fact that he goes in these different directions based upon the trauma that he faces, and that he does tend to, time and time again, rise and overcome it. Not by some miraculous, magical power-up that happens out of nowhere, but by being a person and taking responsibility for the negative things that he's done, and by, showcasing on himself, on his body, by all of his scars and wounds and the white in his hair and the berserker armor effects, that these things take a toll on you over time, and the longer that it goes, the more of a toll that it's going to take. And I think that this chapter, we see a different side of Guts, but it's one that makes a lot of sense. Because even in this big spread of a page that, yes, does have the horse here, we're recounting pretty much everything that's happened to Guts post-Eclipse, okay? And he has gone through so much since after the Eclipse. Physically, mentally, psychologically, he has gone through so much, and it has mostly been with a singular goal of trying to get Casca safe, which shifted into trying to get Casca healed, which shifted into trying to allow Casca to heal and have a good life in total. But then, of course, that was ripped away once again by Griffith, which kind of pulls everything full circle. And I feel like we can relate that to our own lives in different ways, depending on what your struggle is and what you've been through. If you can ever imagine a time where you feel like you put in so much work and so much effort, and you tried so hard, and you traveled for as long as you could, and you put in all of the work you possibly could, and you exhausted yourself, you exhausted your body, you exhausted your mind, and you're trying so hard to accomplish something, and then it just gets ripped out from under your feet, and it's not anything that you did wrong. It's just sometimes these things happen and you feel weak and you feel powerless and you feel enraged and all of these emotions swirl within you. One thing that I like that this chapter did was it showed Shirake, of course, trying to enter within Guts' mind and, bring him back as she normally does. The Berserker armor is not active at this point, but the Beast of Darkness, which is just a part of who Guts is as a person, is definitely active within his mind. And unfortunately, there's no dialogue to go back and forth between them or hearing what the Beast's thoughts are. But I like that as Shirake enters Guts' mind, the moment she sees his thought of Griffith, it's like the teeth of the Beast of Darkness kind of close around Griffith. That desire to just destroy and devour him. And I feel like it's so strong. And you see like some of the chains breaking as well. And if you guys remember, the last time that we saw Guts really talk to the Beast of Darkness, he was saying that he was going to allow Guts to do his thing, but always remember that I am down here and I am ready to release at any possible moment. And I will wait until the right time. I will wait as long as it takes. And it's sort of just that representation that we're always just going to have that little dark part of us. It is part of us as humans. We all have it. And, Guts is insanely powerful because of the amount of trauma that he's gone through in his entire life. And so the Beast is there. The Beast is ready to strike. And it pushes Shirake out of his mind, which I really like that idea because Shirake has always been able to enter Guts' subconscious and always been able to quell him and calm him down and bring him back and bring his ego back. I really like that because of Guts' low state of despair right now, the Beast literally just throws Shirake out of his mind. Like, we're fucking done with this. Like, you cannot enter here anymore. And it just goes to show that there's always a breaking point. The page where Guts is yelling and saying that everything, it was all for nothing, and like that's how it feels, man. And even though they did my boy dirty and threw Guts into the Yamcha dead pose, it still kind of represents that fetal position of just having everything ripped away from you. And instead of having a sword to hold on for comfort, he doesn't even feel like his sword is that comfort anymore. Just as Casca is taken away, that comfort, that sword by his side, I mean, it's a symbolism of both. Like, they're both useless to him right now. Also, after Shirake is pulled out, we see Roderick, who was banging on the door trying to get Guts' attention, but he regrettably has to turn around and walk away. And he's not doing this because he has anything against Guts. It's like he has that responsibility. Like, things aren't going to wait, unfortunately. The island is sinking around them. They have to sail away. Roderick has to be in charge. He has to tell his crew what to do. He has responsibility. People look up to him. And I think he really, really wants to get Guts out of there. He wants to make sure Guts is okay. He wants to make sure Guts is going to be all right and to move forward. But like, it's so sad because he can't. He has these extra responsibilities to do. And so he can't just bang on the door all night. He's got to get his crew out of there. Not just his crew, but all of the sick people, everyone wounded. Like, it all falls on Roderick. I mean, I don't understand. There's still people out there that don't appreciate Roderick, and I don't understand why. I've argued about why he's a Chad so many times, but this is another reason why. And then there is some dialogue about Shirake, who's also feeling defeated, and, just like the island sinking, she's saying that everything submerges. Everything eventually submerges to the ocean floor, including her voice that can no longer reach Guts. And that's where we leave them. Now, this kind of leaves us in a similar spot that we were before, and people were still wondering, is Guts going to use a Beyblade, or is, the Berserker armor? I've given my thoughts on this 1,000 times when people have asked, but no, I don't believe Guts is going to use a Beyblade. It's possible that the Beyblade may activate, but it would be... it would go against the story and the themes and the ideas of Berserk 1,000% if he ever used a Beyblade. First of all, Guts has firsthand seen everything horrible that has happened at the expense of these apostles and the God Hand and the Beyblades, and he would never do that to the people that he cares about. Number two, even if Guts did become an apostle, the power scaling, if you guys remember, Ganishka still couldn't even do anything against the God Hand. They're kind of compelled in the pecking order on the totem pole there, so it's like the power up wouldn't even matter, so he'd be sacrificing people he cares for a power up that wouldn't even help him. Also, to me, Berserk has always been a story about the importance of retaining your humanity and how Guts has gone through arguably worse than so many more people that eventually did choose to use a Beyblade and become an apostle, and yet Guts pushes forward and perseveres by himself, within himself. And yeah, he's got damage, but he does what he can for himself and his loved ones as he moves forward. He doesn't sacrifice his loved ones for a better life for himself, for strength or for conquest or for leadership. Like, he just is that guy himself, and he takes those responsibilities on himself. And when he fucks up, he makes sure he pays his dues. He doesn't scapegoat that onto somebody else to suffer and die for his benefit. Instead, he puts himself through the suffering for other people that he loves. However, years and years of dark, twisted, traumatic events have created his own inner darkness and rage, which is the beast of darkness. But now, instead of the beast lashing out physically, it seems like it's ripping him apart from within. And we see this broken, depressed Guts that we haven't got before. And yeah, this is a very different Guts than Post-Eclipse. Post-Eclipse was Guts just throwing everything in the wind. I don't give a fuck. I don't care if I live or die. I'm just dedicating my entire life to hunting down these creatures and trying to murder all of them. But this is a Guts that's gone through a hell of a lot more, and just feeling like everything you did was useless. That's a powerfully strong feeling. But then we switch over to Falconia, and we get to see a few characters we haven't seen in a while. We get to see Mule and Sonia, who is, of course, eagerly waiting the arrival of her husbando, even though, he's with Charlotte. And then we get the reveal of Grunbeld and Locus again. And, I've never been, like, the biggest fan of these two, but if you are a fan and you've wanted to see them for a while, they haven't been in the manga for a while, so there they are. And of course, Sonia, being the clairvoyant that she is sensing Griffith's return to the kingdom. And one thing that I thought was really interesting here and might come into play is that this is the first time we've ever seen the harbor in Falconia. So we see Zod flying over, and we get to see the little lighthouse out there and the little ship docking places. And I thought this was really cool and something that we haven't really seen yet. And also, since they're all on Roderick's boat right now, this might be setting up sort of the scenery and scenario of when our group eventually enters Falconia. So just something to think about. And then landing strong like the beast he is, motherfucking Zod makes an appearance in this manga chapter with, of course, the naked Griffith carrying Casca, which, if you guys notice very subtly, there is a close-up of Sonia's eye noticing this return in particular. And we all know that Sonia simps heavy for Griffith. And not only does she have Charlotte to worry about, but now seeing Griffith come home with a new girl in his arms, that's probably not going to rub her the right way. I didn't mean for that to sound as weird as it did. But it also leads us into some questions. Sonia is a clairvoyant, and she does have kind of an ability to see inside somebody's mind. So could it be possible that Sonia sees into Casca's mind and sees something of the eclipse or a history? Would be very interesting if it was Sonia who did the kind of final healing of Casca's mind. That would be really interesting. I also think it would be interesting, and I don't really think this is going to happen, but I think there's like a 15% chance, and I think it would be cool if it did, if somehow Casca and Sonia started to get along very well, and Sonia was sort of eventually kind of turned over to their side, because she's already friends with Shurikei, and if she sees sort of more of the truth of everything that Griffith did, maybe she would be more willing to kind of understand Casca's point of view. I don't know, but just something to think about. But other than that, that was the full chapter, and I really wanted a little bit more out of this chapter, but I think what we did get was pretty interesting, to say the least, and the artwork is looking really, really good. It's looking better and better with each chapter. Now, as far as the next chapter, it does say to be continued, so there might be a chapter next month. I'm not really sure what the date would be, but I would say probably the next chapter is going to continue from here. I would say it might continue from Casca arriving in Falconia, so we might get the actual Casca in Falconia chapter next chapter. And I know they said that the last chapter before this was the end of the Elfhelm, Fantasia segment, but this feels a little bit more like an ending. So maybe beginning with Casca in Falconia is sort of going to begin our next journey of the final arc, but we will see. But other than that, guys, let me know what you thought about this chapter 371 down below. Let me know all your thoughts, theories, ideas, opinions, what you thought about it. Please comment and like it. Also, if you guys would like to, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, because I was trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I really don't think I'm going to hit it at this point, but if you wanted to at least help me try to get there, I'd appreciate it. Other than that, guys, if you want to follow me elsewhere, I have Twitter, Instagram, Discord, all that stuff is linked down below. I also have Patreon and channel memberships if you feel like supporting on that extra level. Beyond that, hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll talk to you next time.